Hello, hello, welcome. We are in beautiful Jamaica. I'm Julian Russo, and this is.
Leanne Morris Bennett. Hi.
Hello, I'm Bethany Dean.
Hi, I'm Crystal Facey.
And we are the women of Caribbean Aquaculture. And today we are just going to be wrapping up the summit, wrapping up the end of month of women, women's history, women in science, anything to do with women, but more specifically women in aquaculture. And I am the founder of the Caribbean Aquaculture and Education Hub, and I love these lovely ladies to tell you a little bit more about who they are.
All right. So while we're on that topic, welcome to everyone across the globe to our little chit chat today here in beautiful Kingston, Jamaica. My name is Leanne Morris Bennett, and I am a senior research officer with the National Fisheries Authority and an aquaculture scientist, and I've been involved in the industry for the last 14 to 15 years. Aquaculture has truly changed my life, and my specialty is mariculture, particularly oysters.
Hi again, everyone. I am a recent graduate of the University of the West Indies. I am currently working at the Alligator Head Foundation, where I work with corals, dealing with reef restoration. I am also a student board member of the Caribbean Aquaculture Education Foundation.
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Facey. I am a research officer and I have been in aquaculture for approximately 2 years, but I've been in the fishing industry for approximately 10 years. Welcome and hope you enjoy the discussion today.
So, ladies, today's question is, how visible are women in Caribbean aquaculture, and why is it important? Why is this group of women in Caribbean aquaculture important for Jamaica and for the Caribbean?
Well, Bethany, you want to give any thoughts first? Just what you think? I'll give mine.
As the next generation.
As the next generation.
Yes, recent graduates.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, visibility in any field is important, especially for youth who are coming up. We all have an idea of what we want to do. However, in terms of it being solid and it being something that we can actually do, it's not something that we think is possible until we're actually seeing it out there. So not having that representation within the field is something that can negatively impact how much we see ourselves based on that field. I can speak as a university graduate. If it is that I didn't see persons actively doing aquaculture as women, it would have been something that I would have thought is not as possible as I do now, having had Dr. Russo being a mentor for me during my university years.
That's so true. And currently, what are you doing? Are you working with corals?
Yeah, I'm working with corals, hoping to go into urchin research soon. So it's exciting.
So it's not only about tilapia. You have coral aquaculture, you have sea urchin aquaculture. Leanne is working in oysters, and Crystal, you're currently doing some amazing projects as well.
Yes, I'm in the oyster project as well as developing fish aquaculture in the Caribbean.
And we want women to know that it's not necessarily something that you are just working in a pond, right? It's not a dirty job, and each of us have graduate degrees, right? And Crystal, you have an MBA, you're currently doing your master's in Scotland. Leanne just finished hers in Iceland. Imagine that, Iceland. That's just crazy. And having seen that, you know we can go forward and continue in a higher degree, knowing that we have all done higher degrees in aquaculture. So visibility is really important. We want to encourage our next generation or the women that are currently in aquaculture to be present.
Right. Just talking about the opportunities as well here. Crystal talked about her master's program now, knowing that that is an option.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Visibility is also important because it allows other individuals and women in particular to see that you don't have to go the traditional routes, especially for the Caribbean. Not everyone, but we tend to have an affinity to say, okay, we want to be a doctor, we want to be a lawyer, want to be accountants, actuary, scientists. All those careers are very important, but what about the individuals, women who feel as if they don't fit into those roles, that kind of career field? There is something else out there for them, and so visibility of women in aquaculture gives other women, especially future generations, a chance to see that there is another path in which that they can take, that they don't have to cling to the traditional and then of course become a part of a niche career field which still is growing exponentially. The Caribbean has not tapped into the full potential of aquaculture.
Right.
And we need each and every person within the career field, but particularly women, because we are forward thinking, but not to say that men aren't forward thinking too, but we are nurturing as well, and that nurturing nature works well in aquaculture.
Right. And
very
the
well.
point I want to make is that within the field itself, there are more women scientists,
Yes,
researchers than there are men.
that is true.
And I don't think a lot of people know this, how
That's so
important
true.
it is.
And Julie, back to your question, as you stated that in terms of the visibility of women in Caribbean aquaculture when compared to other regions, we don't have much visibility as our European counterparts or Latin American counterparts or American counterparts. You will see all these female women doing these wonderful things, getting funding, getting established, attending different aquaculture related events. But when you look at the Caribbean, there's not much visibility. You don't really see the females on the ground doing the work. There's no promotion of aquaculture from a female perspective in the Caribbean compared to these other regions.
That's so true. I feel that, I don't know, we're not taken seriously as scientists. I'm not sure. I think the connection is missing. And it's not just that this is a women's group. It's just so happened we are scientists who happen to be women. So how do we connect the two, right? And that people understand that what's the point of having a women's group is because we want the persons to know that we need more attention to the fact that we are the ones that are the scientists and the researchers within the Caribbean, but we're not giving the attention that our other counterparts are given.
And I think in order for us to get that attention, the onus is on us as individuals to put ourselves out there. But many times we're afraid to put ourselves out there because we like to keep our space private. Another way in which we can ensure that we have visibility for women in Caribbean aquaculture is to increase production, because I think once the global market sees the increase in production of Caribbean aquaculture, there will be more eyes on us, and more eyes on us means more funding and more opportunities, not just for aquaculture, but for the women in aquaculture.
But then there's a chicken and the egg, right?
First.
How we need to show our work. That means we need to go to conferences.
Yes.
That's our stopgap. Like, how do we get this funding to go to conferences to show our work? How can we get more persons to invest in us to get out there to show our work? And then, like, we need the visibility, but we need the funding for the visibility.
Yeah, that's why I said the onus is on us as individuals to put ourselves out there. So we just need to work on establishing an aquaculture background for ourselves and promote ourselves as aquaculture scientists in the Caribbean region.
That's true.
I think also for us, a gap that I've identified is, and how do I put it? Opening up our space to others. So we understand what networking does. We get access to persons who can.
But is that a new thing for the Caribbean?
No, it's
is it a
not.
new thing for aquaculture?
For
Networking.
aquaculture networking, gathering together. We know of people doing things, but the networking really, I believe, it needs to be tightened up a little bit. And so we understand from just a general point of view what networking does. However, are we brave enough to say, okay, so we're in a room, for instance, with folks from FAO, or we might just see somebody having coffee, for instance. We may hear that they may be the CEO of an aquaculture entity, or somewhere where we can get funding.
Right.
Most of the times, maybe we might just be polite and say, hi, how are you? That's it. What I've learned since I've been in Iceland is not to be afraid to approach the individuals, to actually speak to them and tell them, hi, I'm interested in this. This is what the work that I've been doing, because you never know what a conversation can do. And then two, invite individuals to actually view your work. Nothing is wrong with doing that. If you are working with an entity that you would have to do certain protocols with, because we can't just get up and do things willy-nilly. But if you are with an entity who you're working with and there are certain protocols, you can probably go to that entity and say, hey, I believe this is a great opportunity. I was in the presence of this, that, and this is what happened. And you never know where that may take.
Exactly.
So I
You never
believe
know.
we need to speak
Right?
up. Not to say that we don't speak up for ourselves, but actually speak up to say, hey, I have been doing this work, and feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
Because our culture is a culture that is shy. We tend to be humble, and nothing is wrong with being humble. I believe in being humble. But what we don't do is we are humble to our own detriment. We don't shout out.
So that's our
loud.
setback.
That is a setback.
That's our cultural setback. That not speaking out, not being visible enough, and without the visibility, then the funding will have to come by. So I think that's something that we really, and that's what the summit was about, right? Like some of the talks that we had, I had a question: how is this relatable to aquaculture? It's relatable because it gives us the tools to learn how to become more visible for others, for the other industry to see who we are and what we're doing.
That is true.
I can say, like, during my hall life at UA, one of the mantras from my hall that stood out to me says, don't be afraid to take it.
Oh, I like that.
Like, that is something.
I like that. Yeah, I think we're afraid to be visible, to draw attention to ourselves.
Yes.
And it's something that we have to fight that fear. And we talked about that in one of the talks, fighting the fear, becoming more visible, like fake it till you make it.
Yes.
Right? But you have to make it. But once you've done it, and the more that you do it, it becomes easier. So, yeah.
So all of this conversation has actually answered the first question that we had on our list, which is, why is aquaculture not more visible in the Caribbean, especially the work that women do? And so I think everybody has alluded to just not speaking up, not saying that we can't, but we should. We should invite the parties to come and see what we are doing. We should be able to connect, network, and that would assist us in getting more visibility for aquaculture and for women in particular in aquaculture. So the second question I have for our panel is, how did you become an aquaculture